Right.
Yes.
Finally, it's time to do the review for The Woman Who Fell to Earth, Series 11, Episode 1.
Yes.
So, you've got the notes this time.
Yes, I do.
You're in the driver's seat, so...
Okay, let's do this. So, first off, it says to plug our Patreon.
Ah, yes.
So Genesis of Androzani / Patreon if you feel like donating.
Other way around. Patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani. It's on the screen.
Yep, it's on the screen. If you feel like supporting us, please do. If not, we're not going to hold it against you.
No, it's just if you want our channel to get better and bigger and faster.
So we don't have to go through all the technical hubbubs we did for this. We won't get into it. It'll go smoother. The channel will be better.
Yes.
But you don't have to. But we'd appreciate it if you did. Awesome. Thank you guys for watching anyway. Reaction. So, Connor, what were your first impressions, your quick thoughts of the overall episode?
Well, we've watched this episode twice now.
Yeah.
Once yesterday when it aired, and then again just an hour ago. The first time I watched it, I really enjoyed it, but there was something underneath it that I wasn't sure about.
Yeah.
Then over the course of the day, I started to think about what I saw more, and I started to unpack it a bit. As I was editing my reaction to it, I started to notice some things. And then on the second viewing today, I've come to find that I don't love it like I did.
Yes. Yes.
And, so my overall feelings on it are less enthusiastic than what they were yesterday. How about you?
So, I liked it. I did like it. Despite what it may come across as, I did like the episode. There was a lot of stuff I thought was very strong. When I first watched it, it was a very passive experience for me. The whole time I was thinking, this is good. This is fine. I'm watching a television show that is very well made. But for the most part, I was pretty unengaged. It was partly to do with the new tone, but also partly to do with the pacing. Like, the new tone, I don't have an issue with at all. Because if this is the sort of the darker, bit more lethargic tone they're going for, that's fine. Because that's something new we haven't seen in Doctor Who before, and I wanted change. I wanted a complete 180 from Moffat and just something new. And this is something new. It's just the script itself felt like either it was way too underdeveloped or way too long. Like, I couldn't quite figure it out. The second time I was watching it, there was a lot of times where I was like, what? Hey? Huh? What? But the elements I liked, I really, really liked. Yeah. But it wasn't... For me, it's not something like Moffat's bad episodes where there's usually one big thing and a bunch of other things underneath that really bother me. But,
it was more just the overall experience.
The overall experience and lots of little niggly things. There was nothing major, with a couple of exceptions which we'll get into. There was nothing overall that made me just angry or disappointed. I wasn't underwhelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed.
I mean, on the second viewing, I don't think there was anything that made me furious. Just frustrated.
There was a lot of elements where I was like, that could be just that much better. Just if it was a bit tighter. You pointed something out very cleverly, like that the editing around the Doctor seemed wrong.
Yeah, it didn't feel like so the thing is about Doctor Who episodes is that when the Doctor arrives, the editing changes because you need to have this feeling that it's changing when the Doctor appears.
The environment is different because this whirlwind of a personality comes in.
But the problem with this episode is that when the Doctor arrived, the editing didn't change.
No, quick side note, the music when she arrives is amazing. Sagan Akinola's new score is really, really atmospheric and really good. That's an element I adored. I really like the new score. It's a sharp departure from Murray Gold, but again, that's something I wanted. As much as I love Murray Gold. It's something I wanted something new after this many years. Yeah. But yeah, the editing was weird. Like, there were a lot of shots that were very stagnant. They were beautiful shots, but the actual pacing and editing around the direction, it lingered too much on certain things that didn't need to be lingered on. like the one I can think of is the "Oh, I hate empty pockets" line. Even though you could see the point of the shot was to show the creature was getting closer, but you can immediately just have someone go, "Doctor, look out!" and you could cut around that. You didn't need to linger on that so much. It just felt a little bit lacking in energy given the circumstances of the scene and the episode, and the fact that she just crashed through the roof and she was doing her doctory thing.
Yeah.
The editing was weird.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Doctor in this episode?
She was the best thing about it, in my opinion. Like, as we said, the editing around her is weird, so she feels like she's in a different story to the rest of them.
Yeah,
Her
definitely.
energy, like, her personality is so up here, and everyone else is a bit more grounded and a bit more closed off. Bit more, straightforward.
Well, I think I mentioned before that it felt like she was in a Doctor Who episode and everyone else wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone else felt like they were in, like, a family show version of Broadchurch.
Yeah.
I mean, obvious comparison because of the writer, but it was weird. The Doctor and her companions felt very incongruous. They didn't gel. For me, it didn't, like, take Amy and Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Grown up, even child Amy, but specifically I'm thinking about grown up Amy. Once we get past the whole kissogram thing, it's like you get why she's wanting to go with him. You understand everything. Same with Rose, Martha, Donna. You may not necessarily like those characters, but in those introductory episodes, you get an idea of who these people are, which you do with these guys. But their reactions to when the Doctor arrived, to me, seemed a little bit passive.
Yeah,
They just kind of went with it.
They weren't blown away by the Doctor,
No.
except for like a couple of scenes.
And like there was the scene where it's like, I can't believe her. Is that mad? And she's like, no, because I do too. I don't know. It just felt
Too passive for that.
it was so passive. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I would have liked if the whole team, except maybe what was the grandmother's name?
Grace.
Grace. Except another Doctor Who companion named Grace.
Oh yeah.
Which is in the TV movie, just there behind us.
Yes. Just behind the ultimate foe, if you didn't notice.
And the terror of the Vervoids.
Yes.
But yeah, if maybe Grace was the only one that believed she was an alien and the other three were all super skeptical, and then maybe the Doctor did something where they're like, oh my god, it's true, she's actually an alien. Have that turning point. She did have her I am the Doctor moment, which was immediately followed by some very jarring tonal shifts.
Yeah.
It was weird. The tone was weird.
Yeah, and see the one scene where the companions saw the Doctor as like this big thing was when she jumped between the cranes. But that to me, that didn't really. I don't know how to describe it. It didn't feel like Doctor Who.
No, there were moments where I was like, okay, this is definitely Doctor Who. Like the last 6 minutes,
Yeah.
everything post
So like
the funeral.
just everything like from the sort of the I guess because the funeral scene is designed to develop the characters, so I didn't have a problem with that.
No.
But like everything after the funeral suddenly felt like Doctor Who again.
Yeah. As soon as she put on that costume and she's like, aha! She's like, oh, I gotta get back to my TARDIS, blah, 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 and fixes it. And they're like, do you have any idea what she's talking about? No, I have no idea.
Yeah, and that energy at the very end of the episode is what I wanted for the whole episode.
And then that cliffhanger was fucking extraordinary.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so amazing.
Like, the ending is so good!
Yeah.
The rest of the episode... I mentioned... We didn't record it because we'd both seen it before, so we didn't feel like there was much... And besides, you've recorded your reactions already.
Yeah.
But I mentioned when we just rewatched it before, it felt like a season finale.
Yes. Yes.
Like, especially the ending when there was...
Yeah.
The story ends, and then there was sort of like the postscript where there was like the characters talking about stuff or the characters
and
moving
also,
on.
I don't know if I've mentioned it on this podcast before, but I've said many times one of my issues with The Impossible Astronaut, in a way, is that it has that same thing where it's like a season finale in reverse.
Yeah.
So like the very beginning of the story feels like the end of a finale.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then the rest of it feels like It's a real Impossible Astronaut's a really weird episode. I quite like it, but it's really weird.
Yeah, it's very imaginative.
Yeah, it's fucking bizarre. Series 6 is
a roller coaster. We'll get to that. That's a tangent, but
oh dear. But this episode felt like the reverse of the Impossible Astronaut in a way.
Yeah, whereas
the tone was extremely weird, and then the very end of it felt like the beginning of the Impossible Astronaut.
Yeah,
you know,
and it was just, it was very. I don't mind the show taking on a darker, slower, more thoughtful.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a way to do it. Like, okay, I'm comparing to an episode that's leagues ahead of this in every way, but if you want to look at an episode that goes from one tone to another, look at Midnight. Look at the first 5 minutes of Midnight is upbeat and weird and
then the rest of the episode happens.
Yeah, and then as soon as the lights turn off, like it completely changes, and the tone of that episode is actually quite similar to some of the stuff we saw in this. But it's not passive. No. It's intense, and the entire thing is like bashes you.
It's a small episode, but it's filled to the brim with so much.
But you were saying on the second viewing, the problem with this is that it also had a small factor because it was so barren. Like
there was like, where were the extras?
Except for the funeral.
Except for the funeral.
Like it was so barren, it felt like a ghost town.
I understand it's a small town at night, but it felt abandoned. It felt like it was shot and like with it felt like a horror movie town.
Yeah.
With all the fog everywhere and the dark lighting and the blue saturation and everything.
But the problem is that when you're doing that, it's the idea of taking away those extras is for atmosphere. But it didn't really scare me at all. Like there was nothing from this episode that scared me.
No,
like
I was
a little bit disgusted by the teeth thing, but
I was until they actually showed it. Because the idea, like, as soon as they're like, why would you be collecting teeth? And he starts lifting his hand. Me and my sister on the first viewing were like, oh, he's going to be made of teeth. And both of us had this horrible, like, hideous idea in our head of he'd take it off and just be rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of just teeth. And to speak, he would just sort of be like this pulsating face. It would
be like that thing from the Witch's Familiar where it's like a snake.
Yeah, but teeth.
Yeah.
But all teeth. And I thought it was going to be like this fucked up, gnarly, gross. And with this lighting, it probably would have made me feel sick.
Yeah.
But it was super generic.
Like, the villain, okay. It was just so okay, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was so. Yeah, everything was just fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on from the Doctor.
Yes,
we went on for a bit of a tangent there.
What did you think of Ryan?
I think I mentioned before in the preview and in fact the reaction as well. The character I was most looking forward to was Ryan.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's interesting because the trailers promised the opposite of what we got. So from the trailers, I thought he was going to have a really interesting personality, but not a great backstory.
Yeah, yeah.
And what we got
was a really great backstory, but not a very interesting personality.
Yeah, it was the opposite of what I thought we were going to get from Ryan.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to have more swagger, like more cool factor.
I was expecting him to be a bit rougher around the edges. He was a bit...
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this is just the first episode, and there were 4 other main characters.
Yeah.
But it felt like he needed a bit more of an edge. Like,
yeah, like I thought he was going to have like a real sort of, I don't know how to say it, but like a real cool factor to him, you know?
Yeah, like someone who was street smart.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting him to be like.
But then they went for the whole. He's sort of like a special needs kid.
But the thing is, like, I don't know how far dyspraxia goes, because I'm actually dyspraxic myself, and it does affect my coordination, but I ride my bike every day. So, maybe it affects some other people more than myself, I don't really know. It's very possible that it's kind of a spectrum. But it just seems, when I first watched it, I was like, Because this is the first time I've ever heard dyspraxia mentioned on a TV show.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be my favorite TV show.
Yeah, like hey. that was a plot twist in itself. Like, I was like, dyspraxia?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't heard that mentioned in my life since, like, 2011.
Yeah.
I forgot it existed.
It was a good thing to flesh him out as a character and make him feel like a real person, because myself included and others, dyspraxia is a very common thing. It's something that I know about quite, like, because I live it. But beyond what we were told about him and the bike thing, in all the action set pieces, other than the fear of heights and trying to overcome that, we didn't get a taste of who he was.
Yeah, we didn't get his personality beyond dyspraxia.
And he loves his nan. Yeah.
Loves his nan, and he doesn't have a good relationship with his dad or Graham.
Great, yeah.
Like, there was all these relatable layers put onto him, but his actual personality, there wasn't really one.
No.
Yeah.
It was very dry.
Yeah.
Very, very dry. It was an odd one. It was... Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Ryan, because the thing is, even though it kind of centered on him to begin with, there was not much to say about him, really.
Yeah, and I would say it's an even more extreme case with Yasmin.
Yeah.
Because she didn't even get that much development.
Why don't we move on to that? Because it says Graham next on the list, but we'll go straight to Yasmin.
Yeah, I think Yasmin and Ryan are sort of in the same, like, they're put in a similar storytelling perspective, except she had way less focus.
Yeah, like the little bits we got where she's an ambitious cop.
I think she
was...
was...
all of her character setup was in like the first 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it was real brief.
And then as soon as the aliens story began, she just became...
a question machine.
Yeah, like she became Nissa.
Yeah.
For me. Like, that's just what she was for the whole episode, just as...
Like... in World Enough in Time, the line where Missy says, "And these are my disposables, comic relief and exposition." It's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, she was the exposition.
Yeah.
There's just, like, there are some scenes where you're expecting her to show some emotion, and she just doesn't.
No.
She looks like Tom Baker in The Leisure Hive when he's just like, "Oh, tachyonics. Oh.
Asparagus, baby."
Oh, we got it.
And then we're gonna fuck off out of here.
Yeah. I think one thing that Ryan and Yasmin really lack is humor.
Yeah, it was... I don't want to say it was humorless, because there were attempts at humor, but some of it was very funny.
There was some humor in this episode from other characters.
Most of the Doctor's jokes landed for me. Okay. Most of them.
I think
the editing kind of ruined some of them.
Yeah, I think the editing undercut a lot of the jokes and made them feel worse than they should be.
Like "Oh, you, stop right there," and then the creature just walks away. Like, the way it's shot, the creature's immediately on a side view, and he immediately starts walking away. It would have been so much funnier if there was a pause where the creature sort of was clearly, like, looking at the Doctor, contemplating, should I stay? And then says, "Nah, fuck it," and walks away. That... like, having that little bit of a comedic beat in the editing would have worked.
I know this is going off Yasmin because I don't really know.
There's not much we can say about Yasmin at this point.
But going back to the Doctor, I was watching a video today. This person has already been, like, for like the last year, has already not been very positive on Chibnall in Series 11. So it was expected that they wouldn't be positive on this aspect, but... one complaint that they have about the Doctor is that she doesn't feel original.
But which Doctor does when they're first regenerated?
Well, his argument was all of them, except for her. He feels like she is just doing Tennant and Smith and not doing her own thing.
To some degree, I could see that. It's not one necessarily I agree... like, there are definitely Tennanty and Smith elements within her character, the way she's portrayed in this episode. But I don't think it's wholly just her channeling Tennant. Like,
no.
There's more to it than just that. I think that's doing it a bit of a disservice, I think.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
Graham, if...
second best side character.
Here's the thing about Graham. If it wasn't Bradley Walsh, I wouldn't care about Graham.
Yeah.
That's the problem, I think.
Yeah, because as he was being set up, I was kind of expecting him to be sort of like the anti-Wilf. Someone who's really grouchy and doesn't want to go on these adventures. And I was thinking, oh, In my head, as I was sort of watching the episode, I was like, oh, the light and bubbly doctor could really bounce off this grumpy man who's like, no, I just want to go home and have a cup of tea. I don't want to be on these adventures. Like, I thought there was a really funny premise in that, but they didn't do anything with it. And he kind of became the emotional core of the episode at the end with a very beautifully delivered speech by Bradley Walsh.
Oh, yeah, Bradley Walsh.
Really good actor.
Is a very good actor. I just think if it wasn't Bradley Walsh, I wouldn't care as much about Graham.
No.
You know?
Like, if you grabbed, I don't know, an actor of his age? I don't know, it's just, yeah, because Bradley Walsh is an immensely charming man. He's so funny and so entertaining.
Yeah.
But in this, most of the time, he just looks tired. And I don't know if that's just because the shooting schedule was clearly at night, most of it, but the character also just feels tired and then feels sad and then is like, oh, I had cancer.
Oh, that was random.
Yeah, and it's like...
I feel like Chibnall is... I don't know, I don't want to be too harsh on him because it wasn't bad, but it does kind of a little bit feel like he's shoehorning in these tragedies to make them feel relatable without actually giving them any personality, you know?
Yeah, it's...
And I feel like it's gonna hook people in because...
We like it more and we think it's better than we are sort of making it out to be, but we're just expressing our concerns over how these characters could sort of just become caricatures and like we were saying in the recap, how a lot of Moffat's characters are bullet points.
Yeah.
How it could potentially lead to that. How Ryan's dyspraxic. Is he funny? Is he cowardly? Is he brave? Is he smart? Is he a bit dumb? Is he... What are his likes? What are his dislikes? Does he like reading Shakespeare? Does he...
Recently, I don't think the video will be up yet, but just as a bit of a teaser, we did hate Warriors of the Deep, but I think there was a comment I made about part 1 of that story.
Yeah.
Was Turlough, his character, he actually showed a lot of personality in part 1.
Yeah.
And that was an example of someone who didn't affect the story a lot, but in the moments when he shone, like the moments when he had something to do, they really developed his his conflict with the Doctor.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was the opposite of what we got. Like there was just no conflict between anyone.
I was watching Day of the Doctor today, and to give Moffat his credit, his due, a character who only appears in one episode that's not the War Doctor is the Bad Wolf Moment character.
Oh, the Billy Piper's character.
This amorphous... I mean, she has a form, but, like, it's a weapon. She is a sentient weapon.
Yeah.
And she has a really defined personality. She's witty, but she's in control. She knows how to pray... Because I'm assuming she's psychic. She knows what the Doctor's thinking, so she knows how to play off of his thoughts and fears, and she's urging him along to try and give him this hope, which obviously could potentially tie into why the Doctor, if you're going to go for the whole fate thing, could tie into Rose, like, because he remembers that face vaguely, or something like that. Some dumb explanation like that. But the actual moment itself appears in one episode, but has this fiery, funny, witty personality. That being said, that might just because Billy Piper is one of the finest actors that's been on New Who.
Yeah.
And to finally get her...
I also do think Stephen Moffat is quite a witty guy.
Yeah, oh, he is. He is. But the fact that this character appears in one episode and has more, like... Because I'm just trying to find comparisons that I can make, because Ryan and Yasmin have only appeared in this one episode, but technically this bad wolf creature only showed up in this one episode as well.
Yeah.
And that had a very distinguished and defined personality.
Yeah.
I find, at least. But as I said, maybe it's just because Billy Piper's a more experienced actress. But then again, these guys weren't bad actors by any means.
I mean, Billy Piper in her first episode was our age, and she showed 1,000 times more personality in that than these guys did in this.
Yeah, so that's why I'm leaning that's probably the script's fault as opposed to these actors, because they all seem like really good actors, and like there's something behind the eyes which could express, but a lot of it felt very flat. And it would bum me out because it was a very companion-centric episode.
There was a lot of focus on things that didn't have character behind it.
Yeah.
It's a weird one because it was good character development, but the actual characters themselves didn't have much
personality.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a bit of a nebulous one, this one.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we move on to it's not written here. It just
Grace.
Grace. There we go. Yeah, no, it is written here.
She was
Grace.
one of the highlights, I reckon.
No, yeah, absolutely. She was the best character other than the Doctor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
She was so likable. She was active in the story. She was funny, like in the train.
Yeah. Now
Like,
this is an
yeah.
example. Someone who we assume is only in this episode because
Yeah.
she dies,
Yeah,
and she makes such an impression.
yeah. Fuck the other three. Take her on the adventures.
Yeah.
Like this. There's this thing of she showed so much personality, so much like empathy, but wasn't afraid to get serious and take action and
Yeah, she was. I mentioned in the reaction, she's really proactive.
yeah. But she's not flawless. She's not some Mary Sue, as some people might say, because she gets herself killed. Like she's a person who makes mistakes, and because of those mistakes gets killed. But she just, through her empathy and passion, manages to save people, and that's a really cool character, and that's what companions should be.
And I feel like, based on some reviews I've heard, I think people, because a lot of people really like the Ryan story, I think people are underrating how much she added to that.
Yeah, I mean, she's the core, the heart of that Ryan story.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's Ryan's story, technically, it really more revolves around her involvement, and the story beats for him are primarily affected by what happens with her.
Yeah.
All right. So, what did you think of the monsters?
Well, I mentioned earlier today, if this was a 90-minute Classic Who story, we would have gotten an entire storyline for these monsters. What was it? The Tim Shaw and the ball of worms. Wires or whatever they are. I was really intrigued by the fact that they were at war. It reminded me of the Routons and the Sontarans.
Yes, absolutely same here.
And I wanted to see more of that. I wanted development on this villain story, but we just didn't get it.
No, and the thing is, the one time whilst watching this particular episode that I really perked up and lit up was when the egg or the pod, the vessel, first started opening, and there was that shot of Tim Shaw leaning down. And for some reason, I perceived that as when he stands up, he's going to be sort of curved over and hunched over and be this big thing. I was expecting him to be a bit like the Fisher King.
Yeah.
And then he stood up and he was just a dude in a suit.
Yeah, and it just looked like something out of Daredevil, didn't it?
It looked like a Power Rangers outfit.
Yeah.
Like
actually, no, it looks like there's this Yu-Gi-Oh card called Garfried the Iron Knight. I'll put it on screen.
Yeah.
He looked exactly like that. It's just this generic thing. I'm big and scary.
And it was gimmicky. Like the tooth thing was a gimmick. It was, and it is the first episode, so I can't expect the enemies to be great. But compare this to the Adipose.
Yeah.
What, like, obviously Mrs. Foster is a typical
and
sort
Partners in Crime's a 45-minute episode.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah,
and it's
the amount of stuff they cram into it.
Yeah.
And that episode has padding in it as well.
And like
that episode, like, I know a lot, this is controversial because I know a lot of people loved this episode, but I think Partners in Crime is a much better season opener than this is.
I'm inclined to agree, actually, yeah.
And that might just be down to my preference of Russell T Davies' style.
Yeah.
But I think actually owning Doctor Who's silliness is better than just not having any silliness.
Pretending like you're like, if this was later in the season and they were doing a bit more of an they were allowed and capable of doing a bit more of an intellectual and darker and weirder and experimental story, then I would excuse the kind of tone.
Yeah.
But like,
it would, you know what it'd be like? Imagine if they had like started series 8 with Listen. Like that would like that would just be that would just, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
because like, as you said, that's like a mid-season dark experimental story, and that's not how you're not supposed to start a season with that, are you?
No, you're supposed to start the season with an adventure. But the unfortunate thing is, the characters themselves, all their interactions were just asking each other questions. And then the Doctor pointed that out. But it didn't stop it. It just... Oh!
I think, going back to the monsters, right, how I wanted them more developed. Yeah. This is why, in my opinion, the best Doctor openers are Spearhead from Space and Power of the Daleks, because those stories actually have a villain story. You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
They actually have this villain story. Now, you could argue that they didn't have enough time for that, okay, but, like, this is my problem with having no two-parters, is why couldn't you just...
Yeah.
Like, you had the opportunity, like, you either... I don't know. Oh, it's frustrating me so much because I wanted more.
Don't get us wrong. We don't hate the episode by any means. We don't even dislike it that much. It's just frustrating because it could have been brilliant. It could have been. But for us, it just wasn't. It just didn't quite reach that mark.
Yeah.
It was too crowded, yet not enough. It was an enigma.
Like, it really surprised me that they had an hour and that wasn't enough.
I know. Yeah. It's... Yeah. What the fuck?
Side characters.
The crane operator.
Well, that was something out of Torchwood, wasn't it?
Not good Torchwood. Like, day one Torchwood.
Yeah. Like the security guard, or not the security guard,
Well, yes, the security guard too.
Oh yeah.
He's an abysmal character.
Oh yeah, but like the guy who I mentioned who was watching the cameras in day one.
Yeah.
Like it's that kind of side character.
Yeah. The performance of the guy, by no fault of his own, it was purely just the way this character was written. It came from a complete, like, Tim Shaw was from like a B-grade like Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Jodie was in like the Christmas Invasion.
Yeah.
And this guy, fuck knows what he was doing, but it was
He was in Torchwood Series 1.
Yeah.
And then the companions were in Broadchurch.
Yes. It was so like all the tone, like every character had a different tone, and that's not character conflict. That's just weird poor choices. Like that guy, oh man, like the tonal whiplash when she says go back to your own planet and throws the thing at him. The crane operator kicks Tim Shaw off. Tim Shaw evaporates into the sky. He says, I am important, like in that most like whiny child, like it felt like it was from like a kids show, like not a family show, a kids show.
It reminded me of sometimes when you're watching a Marvel movie and it's a serious scene and then they stop the scene to be funny.
Again, in one of the lower end, because sometimes that can work.
Or that there's some scenes from The Last Jedi that remind me of that. Like when Poe's parking his X-wing in front of the ship and
he does a Yo Mama joke. We're not going to get into that. There's thousands of videos you can go watch about The Last Jedi.
Yeah, well, I don't want this to be one of them.
No. So we're going to
I'm sick of talking about that movie.
Same. I actually quite like it, but we're going to... Well, actually, no, I don't. No. Anyway, no. No, we'll stop talking about it. Even though there's a lot to be said.
No.
Pin in that conversation now. Moving on. Back to The Woman Who Fell to Earth.
There was a couple of disposable characters that didn't need to be there. Like the one in the crane scene, the granddad or whatever he was. Like
you could have just shown the fence being broken into. You didn't need to see the guy get like killed. And because they immediately had a scene where he was talking to his presumably grandchild, it was so telegraphed that he was immediately going to be killed. So I was like, I don't care. Like, as sweet as this character was, like, 30 seconds later, he's going to be evaporated. He hears a bumping noise. Oh, camera stays in the window like a cliched, not enjoyable horror movie.
There was a lot of that in this, actually. This
The panning away. Like, I get it's a family show, but, like,
yeah.
every time Tim Shaw killed someone, it was the slow pan
Yeah.
away.
Now, one thing I want to compare... I know this is a tangent, because it's probably jumping ahead with direction and whatnot, but it's alright. This one's an all-over-the-place review.
Yeah.
I want to compare the train sequence to the train sequence from Prisoner of Azkaban and explain why the one in Azkaban works and the one here doesn't.
Well, because the Dementors have a... Wait, is that the one with the Dementors?
Yeah.
The Dementors have a very clear purpose. Well, not yet,
I want
to
make it clear that train scene is my favourite scene from any Harry Potter movie.
Wow.
I think it's absolutely flawless from start to finish.
That's mine is when Voldemort gets reborn because it's so weird and gross.
Well, that's a different pleasure, but I'm talking about that specific scene. It starts. They're talking about Sirius Black.
Yeah.
So like
immediately there's
like
because
Harry
they've set it up.
Harry has just been told by Ron's dad from The Power of Three.
Yeah.
He's just been told by Ron's dad that Sirius Black is coming to kill him.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about it in the train.
Yeah, and also like you see wanted posters, wanted dead or alive,
and you don't know who Professor Lupin is yet. You've got a strange man with a blanket over his head in their cabin.
Yeah.
Talking about Sirius Black. Suddenly the train stops.
Yeah.
The lights go out.
It becomes icy.
Yeah. Like it's atmospheric, similar to this train sequence, but even more.
I haven't watched Prisoner of Azkaban in probably about 4 years, but I remember like almost shot for shot vividly what he's describing.
And that music score, like even though I did like Sagan Akinola's synthy stuff, that music score, that John Williams. Oh,
I don't know if it was John Williams for the third one. I think
no,
that
it was.
It was.
It was. But he went for a different tone.
Oh, absolutely.
Very different. And then you've got like it's just a perfect sequence. Number one, because the direction, like Alfonso Cuarón's direction, it all. Like, it's all just.
It's stunning.
It's stunning. It's perfect. Like,
it's a slow build of tension.
Now look, I know that we're comparing a big blockbuster movie, technically, to a TV show, but it's 2018 and that was shot in 2003.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any excuses now.
And it's not like this episode didn't have a budget.
The reason why that works is because every element in that scene felt like it was in the same point of view.
Yeah.
All the characters...
It was all heading to the same end goal.
Yeah. It was focused on doing one thing, and it did it so well.
Yeah.
Like, the pages of the book just flew onto the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
And for the rest of the movie, whenever you see the Dementors, you are shit scared of them. Like, it shocked me as a kid watching that. Like, it came out in 2004, and I would have been 6 or 7, and that was nightmare, that scene, and that carries that for me is one of the highlights of Azkaban, because that one scene impacts the whole movie. Not just the Sirius Black plot, not just the Dementors horror aspect, but also Lupin and the Patronus.
Yeah, everything.
And the fact that it has Harry's mum's death screaming in his ears.
Yeah.
Like, that entire sequence is perfect. You could have done something in this scene, maybe a bit less scary, but you could have done something in this train scene where the Doctor plays the Lupin character.
Yeah, well, it's a mysterious... Like, we, the audience, know who she is.
But it was over so quickly.
Like, bam, she's there. What? You fell through the thing. Bam, we gotta get moving. And like, suddenly it became fast, but not in a good way.
Yeah.
Because
so
it moved past.
Even though I know some people will like that scene, I thought it was wasted.
Yeah, same. I don't hate it per se. I think it was good enough, but it could have been brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, if she was, I mean, maybe even if the episode started and she was already like, she'd landed and we didn't see her land. She was just there. She was just on the train because she's investigating something. Because she's landed and then immediately seen something's awry. A bit like Rose.
Yeah.
Because this is sort of supposed to be a jumping off point for new viewers. Imagine if they did what with Jodie, what they did with Christopher. Little droppings here and there of what he is, like little.
And then she disappears and comes back. Yeah.
Like you could see him in this scene, and even the Expecto Patronum. Like you could have her do that Like, do something.
Her own version of it.
Yeah, that not obviously. I don't want the Doctor to cast a Patronus. I don't want that crossover.
No.
But the Doctor could have done something, and they'll be like, "What the hell?" And they're like, that group of people. That group of people could have banded together to be like, who was this woman?
Yeah, see?
Who was this woman?
You got intrigue,
Yeah.
you got tension.
And then you could build up the dynamic between
like
the characters.
if you do what you did with like what they did with the Dementors,
Yeah.
do that with the villain.
Yeah, get rid of Tim Shaw. Just have this
Right.
weird amorphous tentacle thing.
Yeah.
It's
And do low angle shots
Yeah.
of it, making it look big.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah, just do something with it. And
Yeah. So this is my point right now. Obviously, Chibnall with this new era, he's trying to make it look like it's cinematic.
yeah,
If you're going to do that, go all the way with it and make it cinematic. Don't hold back.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not big on Series 7A, but at least each episode felt big.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily like, other than Town Called Mercy,
Town Called Mercy is brilliant.
underrated. Other than Town Called Mercy, I didn't really like any of the episodes, but they felt cinematic. They felt big,
Oh yeah.
especially for the time, for a TV. You know,
Yeah.
like it felt big.
I love the geography of Angels Take Manhattan.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just terrible script. But
Yeah, but we'll get
Yeah.
onto that. We'll get onto that.
But yeah, so it's this thing of the Doctor should have been more of a mystery. I don't think she should have immediately burst in like this. I feel like it should have been as she's discovering herself. She's immediately confronted with this thing, right? Because she kind of immediately sort of dismisses the regeneration thing. Like, I know it's present, so she's still a bit kooky and quirky, but I think it would have been a more intriguing story as if she's still fully not there and she's adjusting to the fact she's now a woman. You don't have to make that a huge thing, but the fact that this is the biggest change she's gone through, like this is the biggest regeneration. So, I mean, not literally because Matt Smith blew up a whole fucking town.
Oh, yeah.
but
Moffat.
art of subtlety. But
He fucking blew up a Dalek spaceship with his regeneration energy.
with the original generation, it was just a fade.
And he did it. He regenerated twice as well.
I know. Oh.
One was like the biggest explosion ever, and the second was a sneeze.
Oh boy. But yeah, no. The Doctor should have been a bit more mysterious in this because this even though I said it felt like a season finale, this is the pilot for this new era. Just like the 11th Hour was, and just like Rose was. There should have been a bit more intrigue. Even though these are well-established characters, the amount of people who would now be watching the show because the Doctor is now a woman, I think the viewing figures show that clearly worked.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people watched this episode. And if you had this mystery built up again, and also because the Doctor's now in this new element by being a woman, more mystery to the audience because we don't necessarily know what to expect now that she's a woman. What will have changed in the Doctor other than just her physiology? Like, is there anything that's changed in her personality?
Well,
we don't know.
I mean, I guess the what you'd have to look at. I guess look at how did Missy change that much?
Not until Series 10.
That's true.
Series 10 she was great, but the other two series she was just...
Oh, she wasn't really the master in Series 10,
She
was
was... No, she was just... But I liked that she was, like, calm.
she? Yeah.
The calm, subdued...
I don't know.
Yeah. But it's this thing of, like... Because,
Missy's-
but you get what I'm saying, right? Because it's a new starting point. I feel like they should have done more to build up this new identity of the show through the guise of the Doctor, you know? I'm not sure if I'm explaining it quite properly, but I feel like there could have been a bit more intrigue
Yeah.
as opposed to just, and especially
okay.
with the tone of the episode.
Here's the thing. You know
Yeah.
how you said before you thought the highlight of the episode was the Doctor?
Yeah.
I think when I first heard you say that, I was a bit like, really? Because do you know why?
Why?
When I first watched it, it felt like I already knew who she was before she'd even arrived.
True.
And everything that she was doing, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I already knew. I felt like I already knew this personality.
Yeah.
There was nothing about it that felt like it was hooking me in.
No.
She just arrived and was the Doctor.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. But you just could have done so much more with it.
Because it was a post-regeneration episode, there's so much you could do with that. Like, I was hoping she'd be a little bit more insane. Like, I was hoping she'd be like Tom Baker levels of insane.
Yeah, like Tom Baker robot.
Yeah, like just mad. Not fit.
That's one of the things I love about Robot is that the Brigadier, like, he always had this sort of handshake agreement with Pertwee, like, we do business.
Yeah.
And then with Baker, he just couldn't control him.
No, Baker was just bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
That would be very funny. Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
I like... Yeah, hopefully... I'm hoping... Like, she'll probably be more, like, heroic like Tennant. But I'm really hoping she just goes weirder. I'm hoping the writing will go in a more strange and quirky and mad scientist kind of direction.
That would be nice.
Yeah. We got a little...
We got a bit of that when she was building her Sonic.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
That was nice, but... But then...
it was so brief.
But then they cut straight to the fucking video of that guy who's like... Click here if I die. My sister, she died. She was attacked. I saw the monster before. I didn't tell anyone. I'm dying. I'm relatable. You know what I mean?
It was... Oh, okay.
Cliche.
Alright. Moving on. That was just on the monsters point.
Yeah. The first thing I want to say when we're talking about a plot is, did it have a beginning, middle, and end? Sort of, I think.
Sort of. It definitely had a beginning and a middle. And an end, I suppose, yeah. I keep forgetting her name.
Grace.
I
think Grace had a beginning, middle, and end.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. She was the only real one in terms of the characters who had a beginning, middle, and very clear end. Everyone else is just kind of... It was all played on the sort of one level.
I'm just thinking about it. I'm just so disappointed that Ryan and Yasmin didn't think the Doctor was the best thing they'd ever seen. Yeah. Like, they were just like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You came to help us. Great.
Yeah, like...
It just underplays her.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just... Like when, it's hard to say.
Like even when a companion doesn't feel that way, like, for example, on An Unearthly Child, it's the opposite. Like, Ian and Barbara are like...
scared of him!
Like, fuck you, Doctor.
Yeah.
You are an asshole, and now you're going to take us away. Like, there is something, like, the companions feel strongly about the Doctor, one way or the other. They just didn't...
There was no real... anything. It was very passive.
It felt like they were saying, okay, that's great, you're the Doctor, and we're going to follow you around, but we're more concerned about our problems.
Yeah.
You know?
The thing is... I actually still have faith in this series going forward.
Yeah. I hope that it develops and they start to become...
It's just in this isolated story. What we're saying, we're not saying that we think the series is going to be bad or any of these elements going forward are going to be bad. Just in this episode, at least for me, I was very disappointed by a lot of the elements. But I didn't hate it. It didn't make me mad. It just frustrated me.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to what I said about good television, average Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Cool. So, in terms of the beginning, middle, and end, like, the story that...
I think this episode had a decent beginning.
Yeah. I think it was quite a strong beginning.
I think the first 20 minutes of the episode were quite good. Actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. Very intriguing.
The middle was very mixed.
Yeah.
It was up and down, left and right. The tone was not matching the requirements.
Yeah, absolutely. It was
a dark Torchwood tone against a light-hearted Doctor.
But not good dark Torchwood like Children of Earth, like bad.
It reminded me a bit of Ghost Machine when they're chasing around these people, but way better budget.
Yeah,
yeah, but
very slick.
But like you said, the barren ghost town sort of thing. against a Doctor who's discovering herself and finding her
Yeah, it just
personality.
felt empty. A lot of it felt really empty.
Yeah, and then the end was the end of the functional plot was decent. Like, it was like a decent end, not great, not good, just decent. The character development end was good with Graham's funeral. Oh no, Grace's funeral. And then the very end was extraordinary.
Yeah, the cliffhanger was fantastic. One of the best Doctor Who cliffhangers I've seen in a long time.
As soon as the funeral ended, it turned into amazing Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why couldn't we have had that
The whole way,
whole
yeah.
episode? Like, I would be ecstatic if that was the tone.
Yeah. Like, imagine if, right, Yasmin... Tell you what, Ryan and Grace... Like, say Yasmin and Ryan have been friends for ages, like, sort of tenuous relationship, but they know each other well enough, right? Maybe they live next to each other or whatever.
Yeah.
Yasmin, Graham, and
Grace
meet each other on the train. Meet the Doctor on the train. Mystery there. Then suddenly, later in the episode, we meet Yasmin, get a bit of her character because how she apprehends a person or something, or gives them a warning or whatever because she's a traffic warden. And then suddenly, a mall's been broken into, or op shop's been broken into. She goes in, and the Doctor's stealing clothes. She's put that's how she meets the Doctor, by being a thief, by putting these clothes on.
Yeah.
And she gets introduced to this crazy character who's like, sorry, I was tracking this alien through here, and I thought, I should get out of these tattered clothes. And she's like, excuse me, miss, you've got to put the stuff back, we've got to go. And she's like, really, why? Like, something like that. If you had Yasmin Graham and Ryan...
Just to slightly pause there, just like have her in Capaldi's costume holding like lots of scarves.
Yes, yeah. Something like that, just...
Yeah.
Yeah, and like maybe she could have like, I don't know, something in her mouth so she's like, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
And repeats herself, like little goofy moments like that. But have Yasmin and Ryan's family's stories separate and then they align, I think would have made the episode feel a bit more energetic, because it would have felt the same amount would have been going on, but it wouldn't all just be on the same level to begin with and just follow this one through line. It would be like two stories that eventually overlap through the Doctor.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, because if you had that group of people trying to find the Doctor and also trying to figure out what the squid monster was, and Yasmin, who's like, I've got to pursue this person because she's a criminal, she broke into this place, and then eventually, inadvertently, becomes the companion. I don't know, it felt like the structure needed just one more rewrite to give it a bit more of a spark. A little bit of something else.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah. It's just...
It's frustrating. Yeah.
It's frustrating because it's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
I can't shit on it because it's not bad, but I just wish it was so much more.
Because I was hoping like Doctor Who would be back with this new cool tone, but it's just a very slick show that's on, and I watched it. It doesn't excite me.
Except for like a few moments.
Few little moments here and there, but on the whole, it didn't really...
If the tone of the end of the episode carries into the episode 2, that's going to be amazing.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what I want. I want these adventures to feel that way.
Yeah.
You know? Not the way it felt when they were driving around in that car, and it was just boring.
Yeah. Like I think she said something to the effect of, "Oh, that's exciting." No, wait, the other thing, worrying. And I leaned over to you and said, "At the moment, that's how I'm feeling about the series."
Yeah.
But I'm not actually like I'm actually quite optimistic for the future, because not every episode is written by Chibnall, and they've got a lot of elements to play with going forward.
The only thing that does worry me though is because we saw those previews, and all of those shots look boring.
They're all very flat. Like they're
like
rich.
They're
rich in color, but
I think you said like some of the historicals, they remind you of The Crown.
Yeah, like The Crown is beautifully shot, but like it's not exciting.
Isn't that the one with Jenna Coleman in it?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
No, neither have I. I've just seen previews and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was gorgeously shot, but it was nothing really interesting on screen for me. Like the alien creature.
And the most jarring thing is all the promotional material was like these bright colors.
Oh
and
god, yeah.
these-
We had an ad for RuPaul's Drag Race in the middle of it, and it went from all these dark saturated blues to all this pink, and we're like, ah, our eyes.
But well, like, what I was saying, you know, like all the promotional material for Series 11.
Yeah.
It's had these bright.
Oh yeah, you actually mean the promotional material? Not, yeah.
Like the actual like
Yeah.
there's that poster of them running through like planets and beaches.
Yes,
and
yeah.
fiery colors everywhere, and then you get to this episode, and it's just a ghost town. It's boring.
It's cold.
Yeah.
It's so cold.
Yeah. But it wasn't scary.
No, I feel like kids are going to be bored watching it.
I'd be bored. Although I guess it's got an accessible pace to it, but the tone is just
I don't think a kid would be engaged. I really don't.
Mm.
I think that, yeah, it's tough to say. Like, it's where did I put it? I've lost the notes. Here we are. Okay, so the next point in our discussion is Chris Chibnall. How do you do?
Hmm. Chibnall.
Yes.
I don't know what to say about Chibnall, honestly.
It was such a like there was no. We were saying before you started rolling that every showrunner had some form of flair or
Yeah.
spark, and to varying degrees. Some were very over the top, some were more reserved, but still had a little, a little quirkiness.
Yeah, everyone has their own style.
But and even Moffat, like you could see in the 11th Hour, like when he was going for, like this was the most bombastic of all of his episodes so far,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, he's going for this adventure. He's grabbing you by the throat and saying,
it
"Let's
felt
have
like
fun."
this real, fairy tale.
Yeah, he was screaming at you. We're gonna have fun, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
there was,
Yeah, like that first scene where he's grabbing onto the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And, like, he goes over
Yeah.
and he's like, what?
yeah, it's like that was a jarring shift in tone from the end, from the end of
Oh
time.
god, the end of time's miserable.
And
But the end of time wasn't miserable in the tone; it was miserable in the story.
Yeah.
like the tone was actually really, for a lot of it, was quite sort of Marigold.
yeah, it was very
But-
the end of time itself.
Yeah, like real over the top Russell
Yeah.
T Davies. Whereas this I feel like the tone of this episode was the complete opposite of.
It was like Dark Water.
Yeah, it was actually, except.
Dark Water had cool ideas.
The problem is with Dark Water is it has established characters, so and because it's like you said, this episode felt like a season finale.
Yeah, but like
But-
a really downer one. Like
yeah, because it wasn't established.
no.
Yeah. Because Dark Water had like the Cybermen, and you had a whole season of, even though it wasn't great, you had a whole season of build up with Danny Pink and Clara and the Doctor and all that stuff. So you had stuff going into it, and also Missy. Whereas this had nothing before it. And yeah, and the entire episode was focused around establishing those elements, and then it did that, and then the plot was alright, and then that was it.
Yep. that's all we got really.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with this. There was no Chibnall's writing so far in all of the Doctor Who he's written doesn't have an identity.
No.
Doesn't
it
have a personality.
They're all very different, aren't
Yeah.
they? All of his episodes.
But then none of them stand out.
It's not like Russell different, where you have Midnight Turn Left and The Stolen Earth 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And they're all different,
Yeah.
and they're all brilliant.
Yeah.
This is a different kind of different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because it's this thing of it's very generic,
Yeah.
and I feel like maybe it's because he wanted to play it safe, so he would appease people who weren't sure about a female Doctor. Be like, look, it's still beat for beat traditional
Yeah.
Doctor Who,
But
but the tone is so different.
Yeah, because at least 42 is generic as well.
Yeah.
But it's a generic Tennant episode.
Yeah.
So it's got like this. "Ooh, there we go. You know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna yell shouty, and there's gonna be lots of fire and.
And then there's going to be random mathematical things shouted at your face.
And then I'm gonna grit my teeth when I get taken over by the sun. What were we talking about?
Sorry.
I think the last thing I was talking about was Tennant's teeth in 42.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We were talking about Chibnall, I think.
Yeah, we're up to Chibnall.
Yeah.
Very bland. He feels like unbuttered toast.
That's a good way to put Chibnall.
Satisfying-ish, but no.
Yeah. Whereas, like,
Russell is everything sandwich.
yeah, he's like everything.
Moffat is...
Moffat
Moffat's that, but slightly soggy.
I think what Moffat is like, he makes this sandwich and he puts all these.
And then he drops it on the floor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you put the punchline in just before I could develop my joke.
I'm sorry.
It's alright. Yeah, he basically, he does that. Chibnall, you're right, he's unbuttered toast, he didn't put his own style in the story!
What if this is his own... It is his own style, it's just he has none.
He's the Peter Davison of showrunners.
Not that Peter Davison was at fault for the writing of the Fifth Doctor.
Well, let's be honest, Peter Davison's not bad, Chris Chibnall's not bad, but where's the style?
Yeah, where's the... I mean, there is a style, but I don't think that came from Chibnall. It came from... Nice segue into our next topic, the director.
Jamie Childs.
Jamie Childs.
Mixed feelings on Jamie Childs as a director.
Yeah.
He does very good Daredevil.
Yeah. If he was working for Marvel and Netflix,
he'd be making money.
Yeah.
And he probably is making money on this. But this was not Doctor Who.
No. And again, it's a change in tone, which is fine. But this was so... The direction felt low energy.
Yeah.
The whole thing felt very flat. The cinematography was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Really rich colours. It was beautiful. But within the frame, there was nothing. It was so bland and uninspiring, and it was just... Like, that alleyway with the salad man. The salad, just fog. Just fog.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he... If they had gone for, like... If you want to do, like, an atmospheric story, you have to do something like, for example, The Web of Fear.
Yep.
Web of Fear is a perfect example of a story that has really dark tones, really dark cinematography. And it creates this ghost like tunnel atmosphere to it, but it doesn't do what this does, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it still feels like Doctor Who.
This story didn't feel like it deserved this tone.
Yeah.
This story felt like a very run-of-the-mill, like, generic Monster of the Week episode, but it had this really dark, grim look and feel to it, and I was like, this feels wrong for this story.
Yeah.
Especially because Jodie was so bubbly. Like...
Yeah.
As we said, it feels like she came in from a different show. Which, technically she did.
Yeah.
Technically she did, to be fair. But, you know, it's all written and directed by the same person. Not Jamie Childs and Chris Chibnall separately, obviously. But it's the same creative team writing this character as writing all the other characters and directing this character and directing all the other characters.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why it feels so warped.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like it clicks.
No.
It's weird. And I feel like we're going to get a bit of flack for this because I've seen a lot of people compliment the direction.
Yeah.
And it is very nice looking. The colour palette is gorgeous.
It's lovely direction. It just doesn't fit.
No. It feels wrong for this story.
Yeah. I think Stephen Moffat made a comment about the War Doctor, like, you couldn't just have Brad Pitt as the Doctor. Like, it just wouldn't work.
No.
Brad Pitt's a fine actor. He's one of the most famous in the last 20 years or so. But he just wouldn't be the Doctor.
No.
John Hurt, on the other hand.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Absolutely perfect, yeah.
And that's the thing. I feel like they were trying to make Doctor Who into Brad Pitt territory, you know?
Yeah,
in that
in
analogy.
Terms of, in what we were saying is like, it feels like a Netflix show, which isn't necessarily an insult because a lot of Netflix shows are really good.
Yeah.
But again with this singular story. We're not talking about the season as a whole, just this episode. This story didn't feel right for this tone. I get that the creature, the tooth dude, Tim Shaw, had like cold abilities where he could freeze people. But other than that, I don't see why the whole episode had to feel so steely. It was lit like an episode that the Cybermen should be in.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before, it felt like an episode of Gotham, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Segun Akinola.
That's the one.
Segun Akinola is a great composer and put some really lovely synthy sounds into the episode.
And he's big on the string section, I noticed as well.
Big on the string section. He complemented the tone.
Yes.
So he was put in a situation where he had to make music for an episode that we think doesn't fit the tone of Doctor Who, but his soundtrack did suit this tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very good. His music was very good, and it was not an easy task to take over from his predecessor. Not at all. And I think
even though if you could argue that Murray Gold kind of fizzled out a little bit,
still doing that for 12 years.
Yeah.
And doing it to that quality for that long. Murray Gold was a champion, and the show wouldn't have been what it was without Murray Gold's music.
No way.
Now I'm just hoping Segun Akinola going forward will get a chance to really show off his skills as opposed. I'm hoping his music is less because this music in this episode, other than when the Doctor first appeared, when it played a bit of the theme, other than that, a lot of it seemed very incidental.
Yeah.
I'm hoping going forward we get more themes and motifs and leitmotifs and stuff, like things that correspond to characters, like how Rose has a theme, Martha has a theme,
because you could, because people will say to me, people say, okay, this guy's not Murray Gold. He's more like a classic series composer, but in a modern era. And they say, well, classic series didn't have these over-the-top themes like Murray Gold did. But then you remember that they did have non-synth themes. You look at the Master's theme from Mind of Evil, like that, that is in your head, like that is connected to the Roger Delgado Master. So, you can't just do synth.
No.
You have to do some variety. And I don't think the music that he did in this episode would be appropriate for something of a different tone.
No.
So I'm hoping to see what kind of range he has going forward. Yeah,
that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Like, I really hope he gets a chance to shine because he's very talented. It's clear that he's very talented. And the music worked for this episode. But on the whole, other than the main theme that we got to hear at the end and that little bit when the Doctor arrived, this, as you said, this incidental music doesn't necessarily feel like it will work for all different genres of adventure. Yeah. Whereas Murray Gold's music, very bombastic, but you could put it on any genre. A lot of it would work. Like, you could have his quieter themes that would work in a more horror-oriented episode. Yeah. You could have his more bombastic themes in an adventure one, and then obviously emotional themes in finales and stuff. And I'm hoping we get... Obviously, I want Segun Akinola to have his own identity, which clearly he does.
Yeah.
Which is good. I just hope that it's an identity that elevates the show as opposed to being distracting.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I can give a full opinion on him yet because
there was there was music throughout the whole thing, but it was very, as we said, incidental.
It's interesting. The scenes that I liked him most in were like the worst scenes.
Yeah.
The one where the guy's setting up the camera.
Yeah.
For the chocolate drop, the blue chocolate drop egg thing. He had these really nice, that was it was his part of the scene that was elevating it.
Yeah.
As opposed to what was actually happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Segun Akinola is.
Yeah, it's
understated.
Yeah, very, very understated. Now, do you have anything else to add about that?
I don't think so. I'm probably going to have more to say about the music as the series goes
on. Because we'll bring it up with each episode review.
We'll mention the theme. We only got the closing theme. We didn't get the opening theme.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's essentially just a modern version of the Hartnell theme.
And it's really amazing. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like it.
Like the fact that every cliffhanger is going to have that is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to get me... it's going to make me feel hype when the because when the Russell era, whenever the music would hit, I'd get hyped with those drums playing in the background.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get the same with this music as well.
Yeah.
It's good, very very good. Okay, now on to some statistics. The viewership for this, the overnight viewership. This is not including
iPlayer and
iPlayer
or overseas viewership.
Yep. Was 8.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Which is up by about 1.4 million from the Doctor from Twice Upon a Time, which got about 7.2, I think.
It's up by a lot because even more extreme than that. Just last year, The Eaters of Light got 2.8, and this got 8.2.
So clearly there is a renewed interest in the show, which is a fantastic thing.
This is the highest overnight ratings for a non-special episode since the 11th hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some Christmas specials have higher ratings, but...
And if it goes even beyond that, if the overall ratings turn out to be an extra, say, 2 million,
yep,
this could break Rose.
Yeah. If this all...
Because Rose got 10.8.
Yeah. This could potentially, with all the international viewership figures and the streaming, like iPlayer, as we said, and versions of that in different countries, it could potentially be the biggest.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to break the specials, though.
No.
Voyage of the Damned got 13 million. I highly doubt it's going to get to that.
I mean, that would be amazing because she's the 13th Doctor, but...
Yeah.
But no, it's probably not going to happen.
And it's for sure not going to beat City of Death Episode 4, which got 16.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
How?
Oh, well, it was the Tom Baker era.
True, everyone loved it.
And TV was the only source of watching Doctor Who back then.
Yeah, that's true.
And also City of Death is great.
It is.
It's classic.
Yes, so the viewing figures, that's a very good sign. Hopefully this episode hasn't put some people, because we seem to be in the minority on this. A lot of people seem to really embrace this episode, which is fantastic. Yeah. Really, really good to see that.
Yeah.
So hopefully
because I'm ecstatic that there's eyes on the show.
Yes. Absolutely. There's an absolute renewed interest, and I'm just hoping with the next 9 episodes that momentum can continue and years beyond that, so the show can still keep going forward.
And we get some stuff that we also like a bit.
Yes.
Like a bit more than what we got.
Yeah, I want to be stimulated by the show in some way, as opposed to just being very passive.
I mean, I was the first time I watched it, but that's only because I was intrigued.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was intrigued by all the events, but looking back on it,
not great.
Bit lackluster.
Yeah. Bit of a...
It's, like you said, generic.
Yeah.
So, who should go first for conclusion?
You can.
Okay. Well, The Woman Who Fell to Earth is one of the most peculiar episodes I've ever watched, in that I have such a strange feeling about it, in that it's very good television, but it's not great Doctor Who. It's develops things very well, but doesn't have enough flair. It does a really good job with the new Doctor. The new Doctor is fantastic.
She's brilliant,
but she didn't fit the story. I liked the villains, but they weren't Doctor Who villains, and they weren't developed enough, and that's annoying. Really annoying.
Yeah.
There were some really nice moments, but I feel like some of them weren't expanded on enough. The personalities of a lot of the characters are far too boring for Doctor Who, in my opinion. I feel like Doctor Who characters should be a lot more lighthearted than... Not necessarily lighthearted, but just more energy. I just want more energy from them.
A bit more of a spark.
That being said, I don't have any triggers from any of these characters.
There's nothing overtly negative about this.
I did appreciate the fact that I could watch a whole episode and not have to deal with Moffat's stupid, small niggles.
Yeah.
That was nice. unfortunately, what was replaced with was just nothing.
I felt like it was kind of an hour of watching, like, not paint dry, that's a little too harsh.
No, it
but
wasn't paint dry, it was good, but it was just... Oh, come on.
It was very... I wanted more out of it. I wanted...
And a lot of people recommended me watch it again and said it would improve. It actually did the opposite. It's less.
Same with me.
It's less than what
Same
I
with me,
thought the first time. Despite all that, I am actually quite looking forward to the season going forward because there was some really nice stuff set up in this episode, and that cliffhanger at the end was amazing. It's just unfortunate that this actual episode itself didn't stand out.
Yeah.
With its tone, its lackluster energy, its unfortunate differences in ideas.
Yeah.
And I hope going forward that we get a bit more of a Doctor Who feel to it, because even though the Marvel stuff, like the Marvel type approach, I don't have a problem with, I feel like I'm going to have a very hard time having a personal connection to this era if that's what it's going to be.
Yeah. If it's a bit too, like, in terms of the villains,
like
if they're not fleshed out enough and
Yeah.
they feel a bit like flat,
yeah.
then it's going to be difficult to have.
Yeah, like if this might be the Chibnall era, if this continues, might be one of those cases where I'll say it was decent Doctor Who, but it's not my Doctor Who.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I am hoping that in the future I can latch on to something a bit more. I originally had the score for this episode a bit higher because I was more focused on the positives, like the character development and whatnot. But as I've thought about it more and rewatched it, it's dropped significantly. And unfortunately, even though this might be a bit controversial, I'm going to have to give it a 7 out of 10. Because it was good, but it just wasn't. It just didn't stand out to me as much as some of the other episodes. And yeah, 7 for me is not great. Like, for other people, 7 is great. But if you compare it to, like, my rankings of other episodes that we've done so far, 7 is not.
It's like middle of the road.
Like, I gave Colony in Space a 7.5, and that story had a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave Unquiet Dead a 6.5, and that's a very lackluster episode. So, you know, it's unfortunate that I have to put it this low, but I just have to because there was mistakes made, in my opinion, and this episode could have been so much better than what it was. In my opinion, of all the New Who Doctor openings, this is the weakest one by far. And that's what I've got to say.
Cool. You basically summed up everything that I had to say. I'm still very excited for the season going forward, but it feels like if this is the tone they're going to go forward, I'm going to appreciate the show but not necessarily enjoy it. I'm going to think this is very well made, pretty entertaining, but it's not for me. It's just, this isn't what I necessarily am looking for in Doctor Who. Like, I don't want Doctor Who to fit into a little box. Doctor Who's all about creativity, and that's kind of part of the reason why I wasn't so fond of this episode, is because there was a lack of pursuing the really creative elements that were within this episode.
Like you said, unbuttered toast.
Yeah. Put on that butter. Spread that butter. I want more meat in the series going forward. I want more to latch onto. I'm sure it will, and I'm hoping it will. Now my rating.
Because you're known for being a lot more harsh than I am.
Yeah, but the thing is, because my 7, 8, 9s, and 10s, like 7 is, in my opinion, like good, like really, really
you
good.
Gave Boomtown a 7.
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
really good TV. 8 is like great TV. 9 is close to flawless, but
9. You gave The Girl in the Fireplace a 9.
yeah, and Dalek a 9.5, I think.
Yeah.
Which basically like means almost perfect, and obviously 10 for me is there are flaws, but for me the positives are so
I
high.
don't think you've given a 10 yet, have you?
Nope.
You almost gave it to Dalek, but Adam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Adam.
Adam Mitchell ruined it.
Yeah.
Ruined it.
But no, so my rankings, the reason why I'm so sort of harsh on it is because my higher rankings are like, I want to discern between the tops, like, and be like, okay, this is why I think this episode is just that much better and much more refined than these ones. This is why that gets a 10, that's why that gets a 7. That being said, I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but this episode really did nothing for me. I didn't hate it by any means, but I wasn't excited by it. I guess I was entertained by it, but it wasn't for me the tone that they were going for and the clashing tones and everything. And there was a lot of questions I had, and the characters had too many questions as well. But I didn't hate it, and I can see why a lot of people are very excited by it. I'm not saying this is not something where I'm confused by why certain people would really like it. I can see why this new tone would really grab people, but there was just a lot of things that I look for in a script, and I look for in Doctor Who specifically, that wasn't quite there yet, or was a bit underdeveloped. So without me rambling anymore, I'm putting it off because I know I'm going to get eviscerated for this. I'm going to give The Woman Who Fell to Earth a 6 out of 10.
It's not as bad as I thought you might go, but then again I remembered you did say Death in Heaven would be a 5, and this was better than Death in Heaven.
There's better than Death in Heaven, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is, for me, like an okay to good episode, but it's just...
Didn't you say Unquiet Dead was a 6 for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is about the same, like, for different reasons. For very different reasons.
Yeah, Unquiet Dead is more lackluster than this, but it has charm.
Yeah, it's got that sort of Mark Gatiss
and
affability.
Christopher Eccleston.
And Christopher Eccleston,
and
yeah.
Charles
and Eve Miles.
Yeah. And even Billie Piper as well.
Yeah, she's real good in it. Yeah, and I like that sort of horror element. But yeah, that being said, like, it's a 6 out of 10 for me just because it felt... I was expecting a bit more new to it, and the stuff that was new that was brought to it didn't do much for me. And that is purely like my just based on what I look for in this show, and what I was hoping for and what I was expecting wasn't quite there yet. But going forward, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have next. Like this whole writer's room idea, like I'm super excited for the rest of the season. Yeah. This hasn't squandered my hope for it at all. I'm really looking forward.
I think the only thing that it might have been a bit disappointing for is the fact that Chibnall doesn't bring much to the table, unfortunately.
No.
And
he's not particularly like an ideas man either.
And that does worry me when we get to
the finale.
But there is hope, because, like you said, Torchwood Series 2.
Oh, his finale in Torchwood Series 2 is
and
real
the
good.
Broadchurch finale.
And Broadchurch is real good, yeah.
So there could be something special around the corner.
Yeah.
I just hope the tone gets better.
Yeah. And even if they go with this tone, I'm just hoping they speed it up a bit.
What do you mean speed it up?
It's just the direction was very lackluster. Not lackluster, lethargic. It was a very lethargic pace.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't want every episode to be that.
The story pace was really fast.
Yeah, it's just I don't want every episode to have that sort of lethargic feel that the editing of this one had. I'm hoping it's a bit snappier going forward. That's my only real concern going forward.
Yeah.
Because I do have faith in the show. I do think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully.
Just unfortunate that the first one wasn't.
Yeah, the first one was a bit of a dud.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Even though most people on the internet seem to really like it.
Yeah. And if you do like it, please tell us why. Like, we're really interested to hear like opposite opinions from us. We like hearing that.
Because I did really like it on first viewing. Like when I was in the moment, I enjoyed the character development. It's just when I started to think about it, it slipped.
It's one of these ones. The more you think about it, the more sort of things fall apart.
And I think that's definitely a showcase of a generic story. It's when you really like the first time you watch it, and then you suddenly realize it's not that good.
Yeah. 42 for me when I was a kid. When I first watched 42, I was like,
yeah.
oh yeah, that's awesome. And then I rented the DVD again, and I was like, Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got.
Right, so next time will be The Ghost Monument.
Ooh. The next video is probably not going to be that, I wouldn't imagine.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm currently in the process of editing part 2 of the Colony in Space reaction, so that should be out soon.
Yep.
But yes, the next episode in Series 11 will be the Ghost Monument, and by the looks of it, it's going to look amazing.
Yeah. So.
And it's going to have outdoors and sun and brightness and monsters and
Fun.
Hopefully the tone is good. This one's written by Chris Chibnall as well.
Oh fuck.
Which is a little bit worrying.
Fuck.
But the trailer looks like it might be exciting.
Yeah.
So
Here we go.
know. He could just completely change it and just completely surprise us.
Hopefully.
Which would be weird. But yeah, I guess anything else you want to say before we end it?
Please be good.